You look like the most awkward people ever.
Thanks, Evan.
In the most heartfelt way.
But normally, yeah.
I mean it in the most heartfelt way.
Thank you for bribing us with pizza.
Yeah. Hello everyone, thank you for coming here today. Today we're going to talk about arranged marriage. Most people think arranged marriages are something they did in the 1900s, but it's still very popular today in many cultures. Now I know what you may all be thinking. Why is she doing this topic? Well, I heard a lot about arranged marriages in social media, and most of what I heard was demonizing it. It's this horrible thing that should have been abolished years ago. But I never heard anything in the defense of it, which I found strange. Personally, for me, I never view anything as completely black or completely white. There's shades of gray for me. And so, since I never heard the other side of this argument, I decided I wanted to find it myself. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about choice and stability, how they affect arranged marriage and what are their places in it. First, let's talk about what an arranged marriage is. An arranged marriage is a marriage that is established before a lengthy relationship. Then, arranged marriages have more to them than just selling off your son or daughter. There's a very lengthy process involved, such as getting the word out. When a family wants to get the word out that they have a son or daughter that are ready to be married, they put it out there in their circle of friends, family, their general caste system. They send it out to people. And when someone is interested, they approach them, and then personal and family profiles are handed over to each other. Similar to Match.com, the profiles have things like their age, their gender, their pictures, their likes, dislikes, that sort of thing. And in many cases, in the later years, medical history, as it's become increasingly more important. Modern arranged marriages are actually quite liberal. The couples tend to be able to meet each other before they get married. After they meet each other's families, usually without the other present, the individuals meet each other and talk about likes, dislikes, and their futures, what they want for themselves, what they want for their partner. If the couple like each other, they can get married or go on to the next process of getting married. And if they don't like each other, they have the option to say no, and usually that will be respected. Their families will still pursue an arranged marriage with someone. It will just be with a different someone who their child likes better. Arranged marriages tend to go on the idea of parent knows best, but there tends to be a lot more respect these days for what the child thinks they need. Alright, let's talk about choice and where that ends up in marriage. Not having a say in who you marry, as is the case in some places such as India or the Middle East, can have a devastating consequence on a marriage. For example, resentment can likely fester because of a feeling of helplessness that they have since the beginning of their marriage. Resentment isn't as simple as not liking someone. It can be one instance, one decision, such as who you marry, and that feeling of helplessness that just festers in you, causing you to lash out at your partner even though you know it's not their fault. According to Psychology Today, a therapy blog, humans need to have explanations for their painful experience. Even a completely inaccurate explanation feels more empowering than the doubt and confusion of no explanation at all. How many of us have looked for a reason, even if it made us angry, for some unexplainable circumstance because it made us feel less helpless, less sad, less alone? That's the kind of feelings that resentment brings to you, and they usually come with feelings of depression and anxiety as well. Chemistry is also an important part of a relationship, and if you don't get to choose who you end up with, that can fall by the wayside. Lengthy marriages often rely on an emotional effort from both individuals. A study published in the Journal of Family Psychology showed that couples who argued more at the beginning of their marriages more often ended in divorce. Those who were more dismissive about another person's problems or feelings tended to have more fights. This is important because it's not that the couples who didn't divorce had less problems with each other, had less differences. It's just that they had a more healthy way of dealing with it. Instead of yelling or walking away and ignoring it, they dealt with it in a healthy way. And that's why the relationship succeeded more than the ones who got a divorce. In some cultures, the ones being married don't get a choice. And sometimes the marriage suffers for it. Sometimes choice is very important to how a marriage ends up, how people work well together. Stability is the foundation of a successful marriage, and it's important not to forget that in the wake of choice. Financial instability can end a marriage before it's really taken off, and how much financial responsibility a person has can end an arranged marriage before it's even begun. Financial stability makes all the difference. Financial instability can cause incredible stress for any couple, no matter how loving they are. A study done by North Carolina State University reported money is one of the major causes of frustration in marriage and family relationships. It is also one of the leading causes of divorce. It has become popular for couples in the last decade to maintain separate banking accounts, and this helps reduce some of the stress and also feeling of keeping yourself as one while still being bonded to someone else. Income is part of the primary criteria for groom selection in arranged marriages. So, if someone doesn't have a high-paying job, they're lower on the list for someone the parents would choose for their child. It's a good idea to take that example from arranged marriages, because although no one wants to be the person you pick because of how much money they made, it's important because that can be a good deciding factor on if you're ready to marry, if you're ready to hold that kind of responsibility for another person, a house, a life, children. It's a good way to look at yourself and think, am I ready? Parents seeking arranged marriages also have a way to predetermine stability. A practice many use to get an idea of what kind of stability their kids will have, are using the sky and the stars. They'll use constellations, planets, and other space bodies as an idea of how well their children will work together. Erin Amura, a college counselor, stated that she had a friend whose parents wanted to choose a wife based entirely upon their astrological sign. In the Hindu culture, they use the sun, moon, Mars, and Venus to help decide a couple's suitability for each other. The sun and the moon depend on what kind of birthday they had, what time of day they were born, while the Mars is for the man. It means what kind of stars the guy falls under, and Venus is supposed to represent the woman. What she falls under, what represents her. Stability takes many forms, from astrology to finances. But many people agree that stability, whatever form it may take, can make or break a marriage. Even those who get to choose which partners they have are not necessarily happy just because they got the choice. Likewise, just because you focus on stability doesn't always mean the marriage will succeed either. Arranged marriages are a complicated system that includes profiling, astrological signs, and agency in the creation. Choice and stability are both important in arranged marriage, and sometimes these two things can be the exact opposite of each other. In the end, maybe a balance of both works just fine. It's important to remember everything has its place. You can't cut anything out in particular. Just don't go to either extreme. In the end, the situation wasn't all black and white. There were some really good things about arranged marriage. For example, how they carefully select the mate for their child so that they have the best chance of succeeding. They use the stars, they use medical history, they use astrology, they let the couple meet and talk it over and oftentimes make the choice themselves on whether or not they want to pursue it. There is some really important thought put into this. And from what I had gotten from it previously, it sounded like they just threw children together. But there's some really good thought in. It's really a process.